So hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for another episode of Enlighten Me. I am your talk show hostess, Melanie, and my last name is Winslow Hanson. Way too long for business, so we just decided to change it to Melanie Wins. I love helping people to win at the game of life, and every single week we have this talk show to help inspire, uplift, and educate people in the community, bring people together from around the globe, and provide a beautiful venue where they can share their message with their target audience. So join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vancouver, British Columbia time. And tonight we are chiming in from Vancouver and also from a special place, which we will share just in a moment. So the talk show was created because a group of really powerful people got together, and we learned pretty much how to go from broken, powerless, and speechless to empowered, outspoken, and financially free. So it's really amazing that this has come together in such a short period of time. New people are joining the EnlightenME community each and every day, and the community now has over 2,000 members. And with our channels, gives you a platform where your webinars will have a chance to be broadcasted to over millions of listeners from around the world. So this show was actually created by the three lovely ladies in this picture, and also another one who is going to hopefully join us a little bit later on. So we just want to say thank you so much for our faithful guests, faithful listeners, people that come on every single day. Of course, our new guests. We're always welcoming new guest speakers to come onto the talk show and to share on a topic that can enlighten people from around the world, especially during these COVID-19 challenging times where we need to have a little bit of empowerment in our lives. So EnlightenME Happy Hour was originally just a happy hour that was going to just grab a glass of wine, be super casual. In fact, next week we have a comedian coming on the talk show, and we want to make it as light and fun-loving as possible, but also helping to support you personally and professionally in life. So this is definitely what I like to call teamwork, and I always say I can go fast alone. In fact, I have gone so fast where I've actually crashed my sports car off the side of the highway, true story. And I have a crack in my head from my brow line to the back of my skull, but still feel so enlightened and so grateful to be alive. And life gave me a second chance that day. I got really connected to spirit. And it was after that moment that I realized that life sometimes isn't about how fast you go to get somewhere. It's about the journey and the climb. And it's also about reaching out a hand to basically help others, lift people up when they're feeling down, helping them to get to the next plateau in their life, and literally showing them something that they may not know. So helping them to acquire a new skill, helping them to learn something that's going to benefit their life, giving them some information that's going to help them both personally and professionally, but listening to what they need, and always lending a helping hand, especially if you see somebody that's struggling. So for me, I grew up with a mother who was a community support worker. She dedicated her whole life to Mission Gospel Church, and quite honestly was a lady that had the biggest heart that I've ever seen in the world, and maybe I kind of have her heart, or at least half of it. I know she did have an enlarged heart, only 5'3". She was a war baby, born during World War II, weighing only 2 pounds. And being saved during World War II, since my grandmother had to have a blood transfusion, true story, she was actually a premature baby and born with Regis negative blood, which is a very rare blood type. And babies that are born with this blood type have to have a blood transfusion. And I remember my mother on any given Sunday, she would have at least 15 to 20 kids on her carpet in her living room, feeding them, bringing out the Bible, the good old fashioned Bible, and sharing Bible studies with these kids to help inspire them, keep them safe, keep them fed. She always either had pancakes or a pot of soup going to feed these kids and make sure that these kids that were abandoned by their parents or that had a really rocky childhood or even teenage years had a place where they could feel very comfortable. So I love my mother dearly, and I know her spirit is still here with me. Actually, today when I was around the house, I found my mom's Bible, and I remember writing things in this Bible to her when I was a little girl, special messages about my life and about my mother's life as well. And it was just her birthday a few days ago. She would have been, I don't want to give away my age. My mother had me when she was 30. I was her miracle baby. But she missed her birthday by a few days. But nonetheless, this show was inspired by her, and her name was Kathleen. So after my surgery on March the 3rd, which I was grateful to not only have a surgery on March the 3rd, because the hospital beds here in Vancouver were limited because of COVID-19. And at that time, COVID-19 was literally just a comedy show to us. We were making jokes with our masks on, getting our nails painted, drinking Corona beer, saying this is the coronavirus. And the guy said, what? That means I have to drink beer with my mask on? We didn't know how serious this was. We were laughing, but not laughing. So it was happy hour in the beginning. And then it became much more serious. And now it's a show that is uplifting and, of course, inspiring. But this week we actually have somebody very special joining us. So I'm super, super excited for him to be here. And he's actually all the way, if you can but believe, from this beautiful town, Cohasset, which is 25 miles south of Boston on the coast, of course, our beautiful United States of America. Hope to travel there one day soon and be on a boat on the water. It sounds like a dream. And beautiful, of course, like Vancouver. And of course, tonight is all about empowering you. And the topic is the power of self-discovery and making a decision. Will you make the choice? Will you make the decision? The decision is always yours to change your life. And you can change it on any given day by changing your thoughts and having support. And this is exactly why Rick is coming on tonight, is to share his story, share this message, have it get put through to as many people as possible during these difficult times. And to, of course, encourage people to know that there's always a better way of living. So we're so excited. Rick is going to teach us how to connect with our soul self, soulful self, the sky and the ocean. Oh, sky and ocean sounds just marvelous. So just a bit of Enlighten Me. Every single week, the topics are different. However, lately we've noticed that there is a trend. More and more people are asking for personal development and growth, and also healing. So we've been focused on those topics, but next week we actually have a comedian coming on the show, and we welcome all sorts of guest speakers. And if you have new opportunities, of course, we want to hear from you. So that brings us to the next portion, which is, of course, going to be the talk show portion of this webinar. But basically, just want to do some recapping that Happy Hour is a 1-hour webinar. So we start at 7 p.m., we finish at 8 p.m. sharp. And it's designed for individuals, small business owners, and community leaders. The community has your back, truly, and wants you to win. Just to let you know, each and every person in the EnlightenME Network has been met by somebody from our team. And we are all people that are either helping other people or helping the planet in some way and helping to truly give back. As a matter of fact, what I can tell you is that EnlightenME will soon have its own charity. And I'm going to share that information as soon as it's launched, but it does have extremely good intentions for the world at large. And the people that you'll find on there are people that have positive energy and that truly do want to make a difference and are leaders in their areas of interest and expertise. So the name of our show suggests fun loving, but be rest assured that we will help you thrive during the COVID-19 times. That's what we're here to do, is share with you ways in which you can personally grow. So if you've been had your income cut because of COVID-19, maybe you lost your job, maybe you're looking to do a career change, maybe you actually got COVID-19. There was one fellow that came on during the beginning stages of the show back in March, Jason, who actually survived COVID-19. He said his lungs have never been the same. So it is a virus, it is real. There's many different sicknesses in the world and viruses. So we do share lots of tips and strategies in how you can stay healthy and protect your immune system. And you'll find that there's people sharing many different tips on here, how to protect your health from weight loss to making the most of your immune system and making sure that it's strong so that it can fight off viruses, and educating about health overall. We all know that mind, body, and spirit are all connected. And truly, we always want to operate from a place of compassion, because we never know what somebody else may be going through. So our webinar is about big concepts, amazing experts coming together each and every week to give you original content, to give you skills, tools, and whatever you need to truly excel in your life. I'm sure there's a message that you'll hear tonight that you will resonate with. But it's also truly a success platform. And the great thing about it is if you miss an episode, because I know a lot of folks, it's summer, they would like to be anywhere rather than be on this webinar with us. But just know that any missed webinar goes right on the homepage of our website. So you can listen to it in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, and you can even download it now from many different media channels, which is super exciting. So it's a place to connect, find joint venture partners, find like-minded individuals, belong to a mastermind group, a mastermind class, belong to a reading club, even if you wish, even join a weight loss management program for binge eating. You can learn how you can help do your part to help protect the environment. There's many environmentalists that are on the show and also part of the community network. You can learn, pick up new trades. I've learned all sorts of skills since I joined this. I've learned many different things that I didn't know before about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, about how to create passive income, and MSIs, which are multiple streams of income. So you can learn pretty much just about anything on the EnlightenME Network and learn from one another, because while somebody may be really weak in one area, they'll always have a strength in another area. And there's different forms of intelligence. There's emotional intelligence, human intelligence. Of course, if you're mathematically inclined, amazing. My stepmother is a pianist, a mathematician, a lawyer, and a computer programmer. She said, I had to quit being a lawyer. I said, why? She goes, I couldn't speak in public. I hated it. I said, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. So we bring those out here and we make the best of them. But a lot of folks just want to have a glass of wine, sit back and listen and feel somewhat stimulated, but also feel like they're not alone, because there's a lot of people that are self-isolating during this time. You would be surprised at the number of people that I know that are not leaving their homes, that are not leaving their apartments. They're feeling scared. This is another reason why this webinar was created, to let you guys know, let you folks at home know, you're not alone. You don't have to go through COVID-19 alone. You can come on the talk show every single Wednesday. We're always here to support you. So that being said, it's showtime, and we do have a very special guest. As mentioned before, Rick Railsback, love the name, and all the way out from Cohasset, of course, 25 miles south of Boston. Just trying to think how many hours it would take us to drive there. We'll ask Rick in a moment. But welcome, Rick, to our wonderful talk show. And it is an absolute pleasure, an absolute honor to have somebody like you on our talk show. As a matter of fact, when I was reading your portfolio on LinkedIn, I thought, wow, we have somebody that could literally run for presidency on our talk show. What gives me the privilege and honor is absolutely amazing. And we are just so So honored to have you. I noticed that another person has just signed on. So we love your topic tonight, discovering your life purpose. A lot of people are on here right now, either about to discover their life purpose, about to realize they have a new life purpose, about to realize that what they're currently doing isn't their life purpose. And it is okay, whatever stage you're at. You've got a real leader here, 40 plus years of executive business experience. Sad to hear that you weren't happy during these times. I hope you found a little bit of an adrenaline rush, if nothing else, for working for corporations. I'm grateful for the time that I spent working in corporations. And it's amazing that we can learn to discover the opportunities from you for your 4 domains of life and to create a crystal clear vision of your life and your dreams. And I think everyone here tonight, after this call's over, really truly needs to spend some time visualizing your future and how it looks, and knowing that you have a team that will support you no matter what it looks like. So to partner, the power of partnering with a trained professional and life coach, such as Rick Railsback, love the last name, by the way, and the photo, a professional life coach to develop the skills of agility. Rick's word for the ability to reconnect with your peaceful heart self when your busy brain distracts you and pulls you into wasteful multitasking. You know, I can relate to this because every time I work on EnlightenME, it brings my heart pure joy. But when I'm working on some of my other projects, it can really wrangle me up. I love the coaching part. Anytime I can help someone personally makes me feel great. So it's just amazing that you're with us. And the subsequent power, of course, of Rick's decision to share his life unhappiness despite visible success to ultimately discover the person who was always in his heart, unknown to him. At the age of 58, working with a life coach, he discovered his life's purpose. So without further ado, Rick, what I'm going to do now is just stop my screen share, and I'm going to give the microphone so gracefully to you.
Well, I thank you. Can you hear me?
2 thumbs up.
Okay, very good. So, well, thank you so much for the introduction. I really do appreciate it. And I'll say good evening to everyone. I guess there's a couple of other people here besides Melanie and I. And so it's an honor to be with you tonight and to be able to share my story because it's become a gift to me. So just to start from the beginning, I am Rick Railsback, life coach for professionals. And my story, the part that matters, at the age of 58, I was in my 3rd career, totally unrelated, and I had the most prestigious job of my previous jobs in the most prestigious company of my various prior jobs. I was a senior client partner at Korn Ferry International, the largest executive search firm in the world, with offices all around the world. I had financial security. I had a wife and 2 children, one in college and one in prep school. I had a beautiful new orange Porsche, and my wife had a beautiful new Audi wagon, and I had a beautiful boat, a beautiful home, 2 boats, and I had a winter house in Puerto Vallarta on the west coast of Mexico. And but after a couple of years in this hotsy-totsy role, I began to get persistent feelings something was missing in my life. I continuously and aggressively banished the thought for the reasons that I shared above. I had prestige. I had material success, and I had it turns out what was most important to me is I had your approval. So with that feeling of something being wrong and having all this good stuff, I felt trapped. But the feeling kept going on and it kept growing. Then one afternoon, I was on a flight from a prototypical meeting in Chicago with a CEO and a CHRO. And I'm on the plane, and it reaches a climax for me. And I made a decision. I have to share this nagging discontent with someone. But with whom? I couldn't figure out who. Well, that night, by email, I scheduled an appointment with my boss for the next morning, hoping that he would have a solution, perhaps redesign my role. Well, I went into the meeting and I said, Bob, I don't like my job. He was stunned. He was aghast. And he yelled at me, Rick, you have to keep doing your job. I need you to do your job. Korn Ferry needs you to do your job. Is there anything else? And he stood up and left. Well, that night, just by a quirk of fate, the way things work in this beautiful universe, I saw that there was a 2-day coaching workshop in Boston. And that Saturday and Sunday. So curious, I didn't know anything about coaching. Curious, I signed up. In it, I experienced the gift of being able to help someone. And the humorous part of that is that the coaching, because we were just being trained, they were role plays. But I was overwhelmed by the empathy for the role that this person had. And I was, with 40 years of business experience at the time, I was able to provide some insights. I was probably 30 years older than anybody in the room. But that night, I went home and I began to research coaching certification programs, of which even back then, there were many. Of course, now there are 10 times as many, I'm sure, but there were many. And I just I kept reading about these things and they all seemed the same. It was all sort of, plain vanilla or something. Well, while looking for something that resonated with me, I stumbled across the philosophy of a founder of a 12-month certification program in San Francisco. And just so happens that they were about to introduce a Washington, D.C. based program. Well, I wrote a check for $15,000 and signed up for the 12-month certification program. And after working with a coach between the weekend sessions, I was working with a coach for 3 months when I discovered my life purpose. I discovered the person who was my heart, and I realized that it was the person in my heart was the person that I had always been, and that my life purpose was to help people. After 4 additional coaching certification programs and over $45,000 and years of implementing the skills, the acquired skills in service to others, my life purpose, I have a thriving and incredibly fulfilling life coaching practice. I currently serve clients from the Middle East to California, and perhaps after a conversation today, Hong Kong as well. Reflecting on my life purpose, not only 40 years of reflecting my life purpose, not 40 years of executive experience, my 4-month engagement fee is very affordable. Only 15% of what executives happily paid me in the early years of my practice before I emphasized and frankly had to enforce the whole life coach in my coaching. uh, the whole person growth objectives. So my use of the tools in every one of the coaching methodologies in which I'm certified, I help my clients to explore the breadth of their lives using the 4 domains of life as a structure. The 4 domains of life, if you're not familiar, are health and well-being, and in well-being, hear the word peace. The second domain is love and relationships. The third domain is job and or vocation. And the fourth domain is freedom of time and money. Every prospect who reaches out to me has an issue, a longing or a discontent that motivated their call. Well, after evocative questions about their level of happiness across all 4 of the domains, they are typically dumbfounded by the opportunities to raise their self-declared score in all 4 of the domains. I then support them in the creation of dream goals in each domain. I use the time machine. It's August of 2023, and you are sitting on the bow of your 700-foot yacht or whatever. So I use the creation of dream goals in each of the domains, and we begin to partnership in their growth. Action-oriented, results-driven. My methodology is not therapy. It's about weekly action, noticing what energizes and creating the next step. It's about action and about results. So speaking of results, the results of my decision to share my discontent with my boss and to open my wallet. Wow. I now have my clients rave about the energy that they get from their experiences every week as they complete their action steps, many of them tiny baby steps. How about writing me a draft of the letter to the brother that you've been estranged from for 40 years? Just write me a draft and send it to me. Baby steps, but the energy that they get, they rave about it. So so what's the theme here? The theme is growth. My personal experience and my service to my clients. If you'd like to learn more, reach out to me. I'm at rick@rickrailsback.com or through my website, which is www.coachrr.com, or by phone, 781-690-1978. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this story. It brings such an incredible smile to my face, the experience that I've had and the experience that I'm having working with clients, almost every day of the week. Thank you.
That's amazing, Rick. What a story. And I'm so grateful that we cross paths on LinkedIn, and definitely we share the same passion of personal growth and development. Definitely want to take a look at your materials a little bit further. What I always ask people, which is a really beautiful question to ask, and I think now, and by the way, we still have a little bit of time, and then we go into Q&A and wrap up for 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What I'm going to ask you is this. Where do you see, now that there's a lot of competition in coaching, and certainly the internet is saturated with life coaches, personal growth and development coaches, and many Bob Proctor types, of course. I'm a graduate of Bob Proctor's program. Hearing stories like your story have inspired me so much more because they're real. I love real life, real true stories, which is one of the reasons why I started this EnlightenME platform, because I always love it when people can speak from the heart. But picturing you and your beautiful self, and thank you for sharing from the heart, by the way, it means a lot to us. Where do you see yourself in the future? Like, where would you like to get to as a life coach? Would you like to create a bunch of webinars? Would you like to do group therapy? What's the next step of your journey with your coaching, do you feel?
Well, I'm financially independent, which is why I have the luxury of uh, such a reasonable coaching engagement fee. And specifically to that, I have had the experience on a couple of occasions of being so moved by someone's longing that I said, and their inability to pay. I have made concessions, and I learned that I love the expression, the trifecta of life results. Of changing your life results. That if a person doesn't invest something financial, they have no commitment. Now, the other wings of the trifecta are you must make a deep energy and time commitment. So those are the other two pieces of the trifecta. But you must put something up, and I've noticed, even a couple of the desperate people who I tried to help by doing this for nothing, that nothing happens. They have no commitment. As simple as not showing up or saying, well, Rick, I didn't have time this week to spell my name, that kind of thing. And, there's no commitment if a person doesn't reach down a little bit. I'm sorry, I may have wandered off your question, Melanie.
That's okay. I see you as a real life superhero anyways, because the world needs a lot more positive leaders, and especially during these times on our planet. And so I guess what I was trying to get you to do for the audience, and I know there's some ladies on here that are really resonating with what you're saying, and quite honestly, there's a few folks that I'm sure will love to ask you some questions and answers. So I'll just ask you maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll go into Q&A. But
you asked me where I wanted to go with this, I think, didn't you? I'm sorry.
What is the future? Do you want your own channel? Would you like a
No, I like working with. There's a number of a couple of the methodologies that that I'm certified in. They do some group coaching. I've not done that, and that's probably a yet for me. I would be willing to do that if that was indicated, but I'm not sure that more than 2 or 3 people at a time would be appropriate for my capacity, because I get pretty involved, and I'm not sure the dilution effect for my commitment to people. But who knows? But at the moment, I like working with individuals because I cannot tell you the energy I get from their personal victories.
That's wonderful. It shows that you're doing it for the game. What I like the most about you is that your heart is in the coaching, and that you truly care about the people that you're working with. Because one of the things I've noticed about doing the group coaching and the group therapy and the group business courses and everything else is that you then become affected by other people's energy in that group. And certain people are on different cycles, and some people go really fast, other people go really slow, some people want to digest. And I think that to get the true essence of what coaching is, I always believe that one-on-one coaching is truly the best. So that's so amazing that you specialize in that specific type of coaching, because it's hard to find nowadays. A lot of coaches are going into this click and order mentality, and they're taking their coaching and it's becoming a master class. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. you've got to have your own blood in the game. I've spent over $50,000 of my savings on personal growth and development just over the last decade, just reinventing myself. What I found was the most change came from just taking action, but also the most change came from my most difficult moments because I felt so connected to God. Like when I went under surgery and I came back out and my surgeon said, "You had a great surgery, Melanie, you made it through." And he said, "You actually did well, more so than any of the patients that I worked on before even having the same surgery." And I said, "You got to be kidding me." And he said, you operated like a champ." And I said, "Because I feel like it's not my time to go yet." And I got so emotional because I knew that there was a higher purpose for my life. And I really believe in my heart that this is the higher purpose. Being able to interview folks like yourself, being able to share these messages with the world, being able to inspire people on the webinar, being able to take this and put it out to the masses online, but actually helping to change lives. And I'm sure that's probably where your heart is you like to see the transformation.
Oh, one of the most incredible experiences I just had just about a month ago. I had a guy who, early on in my work, he came to me and he said, "Well, Rick, I've had a group medical practice." He was a doctor, had a group medical practice for years. And he said, I'm so burned out over the record keeping that's become part of this. It's wearing me out." And I said, "Well, what else is going on for you?" He said, "Well, my wife is terminally ill, and I really resent her for the loss of our social life." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And so we worked together for quite a long time. And he is now, he and his wife were out on my boat with me the other day. And after they just got back from spending a week on the Cape with their 6 grandchildren.
Wow.
And he is the medical director. He left his medical practice. He is the medical director for 4 nursing homes.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And I see him all the time, and he just loves his life. And so he called me not too long ago, and he said, "Hey, Rick, can you remind me why I retained you?" He said, "It was a while ago, and I don't really remember." And I said, "Well, you didn't like your job or your career, and you resented your wife, who was terminally ill, and nothing major." And he went, "Holy shit, that's right."
Wow. Now look
And
at
when you hear a story like that from a guy who is just loving his life every day, that's kind of rewarding. Couldn't even remember why he'd retained me. And then I've got another client whose second wife just retained me. He was divorced and had just sort of flunked out of AA, and he was having all these. But he was hugely financially successful. He was a serial CFO for a private equity firm. So he was a CFO of about 8 portfolio companies and a director and stuff like that. Well, his second wife. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on. But the gifts of seeing the effect of people on, and it's not me, it's them.
Exactly. And I know the effects of you and your energy, like I've not known you for long, but I've known you, we've had some interviews together now, and I've gotten to know you, and your energy is very lovely to work with. And I know that some of the ladies that are on here have enjoyed it. I think Christina had to pop off, but she's coming back on. If you don't mind, Rick, I would love to be able to have these ladies be able to ask you a few questions. We'll go into a little Q&A, and then we'll go and we'll of course wrap up. But you're going to be featured on the EnlightenME Network, so there is no doubt that you'll be finding your clients through that network, because a lot of the folks on there are into the professional growth and development, but they're looking for coaches one-on-one. And you'd be pleased to know that we have a lot of clients from the Boston area. Ironically, the company was going to be called Charity. EnlightenME was going to be called Charity. This is a true story. Charity in Native means white light. My grandfather was pure Native Indian, and he used to always call me White Light. That was my nickname growing up for my grandfather.
That's great. It's a
You
great
just
lineage.
full of energy. You just never stop. And I said, no, I don't. I'm always got full of life, full of energy. And it's interesting because the name Charity was available one day. I looked, it was owned, the corporation in Boston. So I was going to fly down there and buy out the company, but the company, just so, a matter of fact, was non-existent. So we never will know who owns Charity, but the office is in Boston, and we were going to send Paul down on a journey, who you'll meet sometime soon, because I was telling you he's a man that definitely does need a life coach too. God bless his soul. He was an investment banker his entire life, and is feeling at 80 now that his life he hasn't fulfilled his legacies. So he wants to start a women's empowerment network. Interestingly enough, and I said, I'll be just the woman to lead that up for you, Paul. So you'll definitely be meeting him, because I'm sure you'll be able to get some clients from him, because he knows a lot of women that and gentlemen that could use your services. We say it's a lot of women that need life coaches, but equally men do as well.
Well, it's really interesting. When I had just gotten my first coaching certification, and I met through a friend. I was introduced to the gentleman who ran the Harvard Business School of Executive Education. It's a major commercial enterprise at the Harvard Business School, where companies pay HBS $50,000, and they quarterly they send their high potential, we call them high pots, they're high potential young executives to get to go and get this executive development coaching at the Harvard Business School. So I'm meeting this guy and over a drink, and he says, Jesus, Rick, would I love to have somebody like you on my coaching staff. And after I finished thanking him, I said, just out of curiosity, why do you say that? I told you earlier in the evening that I just gotten my first certification. And he said, Rick, you haven't been doing this, so you don't know why. You don't know the fact what I know, and I've been doing it for 25 years. He said, you are the first coach I have ever met in 25 years who has an hour of business experience. And I kind of went, what? And now this was a while ago, and he also then, excuse me to all the women that are on the program here, but he then said to me, he said, you're only about the fourth one that I've ever met that's a guy.
Oh my goodness.
But he said, the truth of the matter is that any business person would rather be coached by a person who has business experience than by, a recovering therapist or a person who got a college degree in coaching, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because you know what, if you can survive in business and run through the trenches, like I remember working in a corporation where they're like, you know what, we're going to play you a video. It's called Coffees for Closers. And if you don't pick up the phone and make 50 phone calls every single day, you're fired. Yeah. I survived that corporate life for many years.
Well, the idea, of course, what he was referring to is that I understand, the business person's life, and someone who's, graduating, get a degree in psychology or whatever, et cetera, simply doesn't understand their life and the challenges that they face across the board. And, where they get their energy and what their challenges really are. So anyway, he's the one that made that point to me. I'm not bragging about it. He's the one that said it. So, but it cracked me up.
It's pretty funny. It's really funny actually, and it's good to be empowered. I think I shared your story and my story are quite parallel. It's really interesting because I was just, when I was done with corporate life, I was just done. I just knew that moment where I was like, I gotta go see my boss and tell him I quit. And I literally went in and I said, I can't do this job anymore. And he looked at me and he said, what? He says, you're our top performer. And I said, I can't do this job anymore. And he just looked extremely shocked. Like it was just as if he had seen a ghost. And I said, yeah, I'm just done. And he goes, do you want to say anything to anyone? Do you want to stay for the next 2 weeks and collect um, another check? You have some commissions coming to you. I'm like, I'm not even worried about it. I said, it's just time for me to go because I wasn't feeling fulfilled and there was no light at the end of the tunnel. It was like a hamster on a wheel. And I knew that if I didn't take that leap of faith, my life would never have changed. About 4 or 5 days later, Bitcoin found me. I bought into it. Then the universe, for all the charity work that I had done and all the work that I had done helping battered women, actually came back to help me in a beautiful way. And it was almost like the universe said, let's support Melanie. She just slaved herself away for 60 hours a week in a job that she hated with a boss who was completely narcissistic, sexist, and racist, and quite honestly abusive in more ways than one. And I took the leap of faith and I said, I've got to get out of here. And I said, I've got to put my energy into something else. And all of these opportunities came flying in, one after another, and they were all better than the job that I had. And some people just get so intimidated by their boss and by this corporate life and by fear and by lack. And all these voices come in and they say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. You got to take the word can't out of the vocabulary. There's a lady that'll come on the call. She may already be on, but she says that the word can't is not in her vocabulary. She just said, I just get up and I just do it. She's a powerhouse. She's built many, many, many successful companies from the ground up. You'll meet her, Rick, don't worry. But I feel like we've been hogging the microphone. So I want to definitely open up the chat room and get people to share their videos if they feel that they wish to. I know we've got Galaxy 8. It may be either Christine or Robert knowing that address. We've got Aura, we've got Wendy, we've got Shy Rose, we've got Christina. If there's anyone on here who'd like to say a few words to Rick, please do. Please engage. We are going to wrap up the webinar at 8 p.m. sharp. Rick is 3 hours ahead of us, and of course, he will be going to sleep with really beautiful dreams about EnlightenME tonight and EnlightenME Network. So if you guys want to kindly put your video cameras on, this is definitely the social time of the show. And if not, then we'll just make sure that the video is posted online so that you guys can find Rick, reach out to him, talk to him. But of course, don't be shy. This is your time for sure. I can ask people also to unmute themselves. Not sure if you guys are still dialed in, but would love it if you guys could say a few things to Rick. If not, then we'll just maybe ask him to say some closing notes and we could then wrap up the call.
Sure, I can say something. First off, I'd like to say hello. My name is Wendy Jo. I know that rhymes, but I didn't mean it to. Anyhow, yeah, I don't really have a specific question, more so just a comment. I really enjoyed listening to you, and I love your wisdom, and I love the enthusiasm that you didn't find your purpose until later in life, and that's very inspiring for a lot of people because I think no matter what age we are, we're always growing. I love how you talk about growth because I like that, and I feel that we are all growing. And if you had one thing to say, I know Melanie shared with me the other night when you told her little story about anger and how to perceive that. And if you were my coach, I would say my question to you would be, as of late, I wouldn't say I'm angry, but I'm definitely feeling channeled by, or pardon me, feeling challenged by being poked or triggered with that emotion of anger. So I'd love to hear how you would coach someone on that.
Well, I would, evocative questioning really is the core skill of coaching, Wendy Jo. And I would simply say, well, okay, so let's talk about the triggers. What have you noticed about the triggers of this anger?
Yes, definitely. You always need to be aware of that for sure, because that's usually the start of it. I wouldn't, well, that's an interesting question because it's not just one specific scenario. It's kind of popping up in my personal life and my professional life, and even in my spiritual life. So I think they're all kind of connected, perhaps to one thing that maybe I'm not able to see at the moment, but hopefully in the near future would come true. But yeah, the triggers are let me just think about that. If I need to break it down to more like, I'm going to break it down to my personal life with my family. So I guess the triggers being a mother of adult children, that my children still kind of treat me like, or I feel that they still have expectations of me mothering them like as if they weren't adults. And I'm like, what? That triggers me. I'm like, I guess the trigger is a bit of a power struggle and different expectations. You know what I mean? And that's probably, if
Yes,
I
I
think
do.
about the same even professional, where, you know, different people have different ideas. And in today's world, communication is definitely challenged with social media and texting, and maybe people don't talk enough about what's what. And then, you know, we can have expectations in our own mind. And if, you know, our ego doesn't meet that, then of course we're triggered because we're like, what? And then we have the emotions that vibrate with that, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Cool.
Well, I think that my and I have to guess because you've shared one um, uh, kind of instance, but I'll oversimplify. You've just briefly, because of the situation we're in, shared
Mm-hmm.
as that. Well, you've noticed this anger happening in the relationship domain, and as it relates to your children and your relationship with your children as being
Yeah,
a trigger.
for
So
sure.
we would mine that, and what is it that they're looking for from you that you feel is unwarranted? And you were clear that they're adult children, and so I felt the relationship there, the unwarrantedness, if you will, if
Mm-hmm.
that's, I don't believe that's actually a word, but but
I
the
get it.
but a discontent with the fact that these adult children are looking for mothering from you. Is a fair characterization?
Well, it's not so much mothering, because I think we're always a mother, and I don't mind mothering, but it's at what stage that, you know, you're mothering. Obviously, you mother a child when they're a baby differently than you mother them when they're a teenager, and at different stages. And I feel that because they're in their 20s and 30s, the way that I want to mother them, I still think they have some expectations as if they're 18. And that's where the conflict can arise, because I'm trying to push them or develop them or grow them into becoming independent. And that, you know, I
Are
have
you
two
talking
children young.
financial, emotional,
All of it, all of
living,
it, all of it,
residential?
all of it.
Okay. So there's
Just
a
challenge me.
overall sort of a breadth of dependency that you're feeling on you, dependency on
Yeah,
you. Is that
a
fair?
little bit. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I feel we should be at the stage where they're independent, but in all fairness to them, we do have a business agreement in that we own a house together, so it makes it more challenging too, right?
Mhm.
It's not like they're living under my roof, we're living under each other's roof.
And how old are these kids?
I have twin boys that are 24 and a daughter that's 30.
Okay, there's three of them. And do you notice, is it your observation, Wendy Joe, that the level of dependency is somewhat uniform across the three of them, or are there
There are definitely
standouts in this
some,
dependency?
there are some things that are similar, but yeah, there's some independent ones as well.
Hmm. Well, I would think my suggestion is that it would be that unpacking that would be the key to creating some action steps that would ultimately, the objective of which would be to open up this Pandora's box, and in each of these in separate relationships,
For sure.
and have them. I mean, I've worked with an awful lot of people who, because relationships is one of the domains that I work on. There's the inability to, or the unwillingness of a person to, declare. I'm talking about you now, Wendy Joe, of
I
saying,
hear you.
okay, this is unacceptable to me, and let's
Mhm.
talk about how we can help you. Now, this is not a group conversation. These are one-to-one conversations. Let's talk about how, what you just said, twin son number two, is, really causes me some feeling of frustration. So let's unpack that together. And so it becomes a requirement for you to actually stand into it a little bit, and but to engage another adult. Because if
Mm,
you simply own it, then you're actually creating a
mhm.
codependent a codependent dysfunction by not taking it on
Right.
one to one.
Gotcha.
So
Thank you.
I, I don't want to say
No,
I'm
I know it's
wing
a
I'm
loaded
winging
question.
it
Trust
here,
me.
because I'm
No, and I
very
don't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I'm really hearing you and feeling you, and I'd like to be able to help you, Wendy Joe. And with the amount of information and the setting, I think it's
Yeah,
difficult
for
for us
sure.
for me to say
I
much
think
more
what
than that.
I was trying to allude to, and maybe Melanie, you can help me here, is because I think the other night she had a talk with you prior to the talk show, and she was sharing with me your perspective of what anger meant. Melanie, do you remember when you were telling me that?
Yeah, actually, it was hard for me because I have a lot of pent up anger, and I feel love today for the first time, and joy in such a long time, because I've been doing these healing treatments. I've been hooked up to these same machines that Bruce Lee had, and what they do is they recalibrate the cells in your body and they get out old energy, and it literally rings you. Like some of the cupping massage that this fellow does is from ancient Asian times, the techniques he used, and it literally squeezes out a lot of emotion out of your body. So I've gone through a lot of release of emotion because I couldn't get rid of my anger.
Mm,
And we were talking about anger yesterday on the call for sure. Just want to be mindful of the time. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap up the show portion, and then we can go into social time where it's just off microphone.
mhm.
So just want to say
Sure.
thanks again, Rick, for being on the show. And I just also want to say God bless all of you. If you liked what we had to offer here tonight to the community, and like what we had to say, and would like to get in touch with us, you can find us all at EnlightenME Network. We'll make sure that Rick gets a complimentary profile up so he's found in the business directory. and you can too. So please reach out. My cell is 604-300-4555, which is also the Zoom ID. And you can also submit your bio in case you wish to be a guest speaker. But just so you guys all know, please mark your calendars for next Wednesday, as we have a very special comedian coming on to make us all laugh. And it's going to be totally fun, and it's going to be a glass of wine and humor. So thanks again.